I started as an actress, and I trained for many years as an actress, and then shortly after I finished my training I was really bored with acting. But I'd already started writing and directing and acting as a child, just naturally. And when I went to drama school, I was discouraged from writing and directing, just to focus on one thing. But when I finished, I was very bored with acting and naturally gravitated back towards writing and directing. And I didn't want to go to film school because I'm quite subversive by nature and I don't tend to like schools. So I went and worked on Lars von Trier's film Dogville as an attachment, and that was my film school. And during that period I started writing and directed a short called Monster, and then here we are with Babadook. It's my second film and my first feature.
You can choose one tonight.
As an actor, I read a lot of scripts and thought, oh, these characters are terrible. You know, they didn't have to be horror scripts to be shallow character development. So I guess it was important for me to feel that I was writing characters that I would play, that I would believe and want to perform. The deeper elements of this film, character and story, were much more important than the scares. There's all those what they call tropes of horror, which, if they're used just as they are very hollow. I really wanted to focus on this woman. I feel very passionately in life that you need to face your life, and that includes all the shitty parts as well, all the dark and difficult parts. And I was very fascinated by a woman who didn't do that, and how would she be? And so for me, all the horror in the film is just an extension of that suppression. It was very much focused on her journey. I'm guessing that's what gives the film some depth, you know, beyond flickering lights and scary shadows. For me, what's personal about it is this feeling of having to face the unfaceable. In life, I think it's really important to face the darkness, face the shadow, and then you can live more fully. And I really feel that through my own experience. It's not always easy to do that, and certainly with the character of Amelia, she's gone through some terrible things, so I understand why she hasn't faced them. I was very committed to making something that felt very me, that was from my point of view, and I also wanted to make something that was universal, so it could be a story set in, you know, in Paris or Poland or America, or it was just a mother and a son. And these are the kind of stories that intrigue me. For that woman, it's a process of growing up, of maturing, because the problem with a lot of us, myself included, is we want life to be perfect. And, you know, the problem, I think a lot of mental illness, depression, is because of this fixation with what's good and not accepting that darkness is a part of life. But when we get to the point where we can actually nurture this darkness, I don't mean feed off it, but feed it and negotiate with it and keep it in its place, then we're starting to really get somewhere. And I think, you know, the problem with this character in the beginning is that she was not just hurting herself, she was hurting her son. And in the end, she can actually, she's well acquainted with her own darkness, that she can actually be a real mother now. A lot of criticism from mothers saying, how dare you portray a mother like this? It's terrible that she does this to her son. We've had the opposite. You know, I've had women sort of breathe this collective sigh of relief saying, thank God we see this woman on screen who does everything that we are thinking. And I'm not saying that they want to murder their children, but it's a hard thing to be a mother. You know, I only see it from the outside. I don't have children, but you know, it's one of the great kind of what's the word? Institutions. And so to assume that it's perfect is what everyone does, but it's you know, every individual experience is far from perfect. Women really struggle to be good mothers, and I've never met a woman who feels like a good mother. It's not an easy thing to be a parent, and for a woman, you have to give up who you were to be this person, this new person that's totally in servitude of this small creature. Well. Horror, it's one of the most cinematic of genres, actually. It allows you to create dream for film. So it puts you into a dreamscape, or in this case, a nightmare-scape. And it also allows the audience in more. It allows them, it forces them in some ways to feel. Whereas with a drama, I think this kind of material could have bordered on being kitchen sink drama or melodramatic. And I didn't want people to sit back and be all intellectual about these themes. I wanted them to feel sick and to feel like they had a hand on their neck, you know, around their throats, strangling them, so that it was a visceral experience and that they were feeling it. And it never occurred to me to create it without this other entity involved. Before we were shooting, we had sales agents, American and otherwise, say, we'll give you the money to make this if you just kill the Babadook. And I said, no way. You know, I may as well not make the film. It's not my experience of life. You know, and I'm really happy that I was so stubborn in that. You know, the feedback I've had from people who say, I never thought of it like this, but people say it's like addiction. It's like mental illness. You know, people who've experienced these things in their own lives have been really deeply moved by the film. And I think the ending has a lot to do with that. You know, life isn't tied up. It's not this neat little thing. You have a terrible experience. Oh, glad that was over. Now I can get on with being perfect again. It doesn't work that way. You know, you have a huge, beautiful scar that is with you forever. And how do you reconcile? You know, humans aren't meant to see their husband decapitated in an accident and then give birth at the same time, you know, shortly after. But people do experience these horrendous things. And to say you can just kill something like that, kill that experience, kill that grief, it's not possible. The word Babadook came. I had a Serbian friend, and I said, what's boogeyman? And he said, Baba Roga. He said, but it also means grandmother. And I thought, I can't, the grandmother. I can't call a film The Grandmother. And I also didn't want a name that meant anything to anyone. But I liked Baba, and then Babadook came when I was writing the verses in the book. And it just came so quickly, and I thought it doesn't quite make sense, but it does. I guess I was attracted by this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, this idea of this gentleman. You know, everything about the Babadook in the book could be fake. So you never see any skin. He's always, his sleeves, he's wearing gloves. He has a face that looks like a mask. Top hat, hair that could be a wig. So he's even not male. He's just playing at being masculine. I wrote this film and created this film with no concern for the audience. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's just I thought, what is true to this story? And I kept saying that all along. So, you know, I've been in America since Sundance and have an American agent now and reading a lot of scripts, and I feel this very much trying to second guess an audience, and I just think it's fruitless. I want to try never to do that. I wrote early drafts of Babadook, there's a lot more dialogue, and then when I went through, I was very brutal with the dialogue. I say, do I need this? No. No. And then you get a brilliant actress like Essie on, and more dialogue goes because you see it. You know, and acting for camera is all about subtext. It's all about what's not said. For Babadook, I was really influenced by Méliès and Murnau, like the film Faust. Although it's not a horror, it has some very powerful imagery of devils, and this kind of thing intrigued me. There's also a crazy Danish film called Heksen. I don't know if you know, but again, a lot of in-camera tricks. They create this sort of naive world that has a very sinister edge. So it was perfect for Babadook because it comes into, there's something childlike about Babadook, the world of the film. You have this pop-up book for kids, and so it seemed right. All these influences made sense to me. I love the 70s films as well, and I think it was an extraordinary time for this kind of film because there was no postmodern commenting on their films. It was very pure. But also the 1920s and 30s, early cinema for me was much more about the art, actually, and somehow we moved away from that. It was my intention to make it dreamlike and to create a heightened reality, especially as the film continues on, but that I always wanted the core of it to be real, so I wanted the emotions to be real. And, you know, films, Clouseau, and you've mentioned, like other French films like Les Diaboliques and Les Yeux sans visage, they are fantastical films, but there's something emotionally very true about them. Other films I didn't mention, you know, things like Vampire, Karl Dreye's Vampire. Even the Joan of Arc film that he did, I mean, there's something strange about the characters in that I loved, and this strange framing, and very beautiful. And Polanski's an obvious inspiration for me, his domestic horrors, because they're very mythical and they still hold up well, like they feel contemporary to me.
That noise I heard. I didn't hear any noise. Really howling, doors slamming. I declare our body think this house is haunted.
I had no idea how it was going to be received. I didn't think maybe the Americans would get it or like it. And, you know, we had confirmation because the Sundance panel, it was the first film they ever chose for 2014. They chose it very early on and they were really enthusiastic about it. So at least we had that. But, you know, we had my producers, me, Essie Davis, the lead, production designer Alex, and our DOP. They were all there at Sundance. And then this wave of kind of hysteria about the film hit us. And we were so happy, obviously, you know, but we were a bit in shock. And then to have Gérard May on the back of that was just fantastic. And I really felt after that, oh, okay, some people like this film, you know. It got great reviews across the board in America, and since then we've had wonderful reviews. So it's been a pleasurable, really.
I'm not leaving you. Mom? Mom?
I think it's important for a director to be very stubborn. That's what I learnt from Lars von Trier, just watching him, you know, how stubborn he was, in a good way. the less stubborn you are and the less clear you are, the greater the gap between those three films, you know, the one you imagine, the one you shoot and the one you end up with. So for me, I'm a very visual person. When I wrote the script, so when I wrote it, I closed my eyes and I could see it. And when we were on set, you know, the DOP, Radek Radchuk, said to me, Jennifer, you see the film in your head. You know, it's very rare. So I guess I was very strong to begin with. But of course it ends up different, you know, just by the nature of creating something. But I feel very happy to say it was the film I intended to make.